This one's new.
Brisingr is the third entry into the Inheritance cycle written by Christopher Paolini and released in 2008. So, without further ado, let's get straight into story. The story starts, for the first time, not right where the other book ends, and this one starts with Roran and Aragon trying to rescue Katrina. After a little fight, they manage to rescue her, and Aragon sends her and Roran back on his dragon Saphira to the Barden. Aragon stays and finds Salone, Katrina's father, and using magic he sends him to the elves. The mindless race, sort of, you got the Trollocs in the Wheel of Time, you have the Yurgles in the Inheritance cycle in these books here. So they start an alliance with the Varden because they're not so mindless as we thought. They have more of a culture and more civilization as previously thought. So the Werecats, another race of, you can't say humans, of people. So another race shows up, Werecats, which are just as it sound. They are just as they sound. It's weird. They're like the size of house cats, some bigger, some a little bit smaller, and they have a human form, and they can turn in between, they can change forms, and they act like cats. I love the werecats. The werecats are great. And they start an alliance with the Varden too. They agree to fight in this book. I'm pretty sure that could be Inheritance, but I'm pretty sure it's Brisingr. Aragon goes to the dwarfs while they pick a new king. Small spoiler, the king was killed in the last book. The king of the dwarves was killed in the last book, so now they have to go pick a king, a new one. And this is so boring, but more on that in pacing. And Roran is promoted in rank. He becomes a captain over a few men. Well, he becomes a captain over about 100 men, I think. And he then defies orders of his general and is marked for insubordination, but ends up saving the entire contingency there. And he's promoted to general after that. He takes the 50 lashings is what he got, and then he is promoted to general. Aragon then goes back to the elves and is given something undisclosed in this review. He's given something by them, and to keep story spoilers to a minimum, that'll be it. Something. He then meets back up with the Varden, and they take the first city in their conquest to overthrow Galbatorix and his empire. And that's where the book ends. So now let's move on to world building. World building in Brisingr is done mostly by the dwarves, and I guess it's more culture than world building, and that really adds to the world. It builds the world up through that culture, and that's the same with the elves in the last book. So they're the only culture with religion. They're the only race that has religion. They practice religion. It doesn't have a name, and I can't think of their god's name. I can't think of it, but they're the only one. It's really in-depthly explained in Eldest. That's in the last book. That's where they go the most into it. But this is where we're with the dwarves for the longest time and get to see how they interwork with their politics. Again, more on that in pacing. But the world building is good in Brisingr. It's good. It really does take the world that we were given in Aragon and Eldest and build more so upon it. So now on to character development. The character in Brisingr is, again, mostly Roran. Aragon has reached the near peak of his character. He will have one big plot point next book, which changes his character just a little bit, if not only makes him a little more resigned to what he has to do. But other than that, Aragon's still the same person, but Roran, he is now a general. He goes, he commits insubordination as a captain, but he ends up saving the entire contingency of men he was with. But it caused him to get insubordination, and him going through that, doing the thing that was right, even though it was going to cost him insubordination, it was going to charge him with a war crime. That's really Roran, and it just goes to show that the character development of Roran is amazing. And again, it just goes to show that Roran should have got the dragon and not Aragon. But Nazahud, she gets some character development. The leader of the Varden, she does, but Roran is still the biggest advancement in character out of all of them. And Roran will forever and always be my favorite character. Now on to pacing. Pacing in Brisingr is just not good. It's pretty bad, in fact. It's okay. I mean, it's good except for this one big chunk of the latter half of the book, or right in the middle of the book, I guess. Dwarf politics. It's so slow. It goes by so slow, and it is so boring and so unengaging. It hurts. It feels like 100 pages, and everyone shares the same sentiment. That in my friend group that's read it, they said, yeah, the dwarf politics are just not good, and they take so long to get through. It really does feel like 100 pages the first time you read through it. The second time I read through it last year, I realized that it's only about 45, maybe 50 pages, maybe a little bit less than 45. But it just felt like an eternity the first time I read it. And even the ceremony of crowning the new king takes a little bit too long, in my opinion. But at least that part's engaging. But you still kind of feel like, when are we going to get to the exciting part? But yeah, now on to final verdict. It pains me to say 7 out of 10. This is the lowest scoring book in all of the Inheritance cycle. It's just those stupid politics. It just takes so long and so drawn out, and it's just so boring. It hurts. It just takes way too much time. But it would have been my favorite book, probably, if it wasn't for the politics. If it wasn't for the dwarf politics, it would be probably my favorite book. But that's it. World building is great. Character development is great, and the story's one of the best out of the books, out of the series. But those stupid politics, man. But that's it. 7 out of 10 for Brisingr. Tomorrow will be Inheritance, and then we will go back to Wheel of Time books. All right. See you then.